Welcome to the Delmarva Almanac. Each week we connect you to the best of Delmarva. I'm your host, Dana Kester McCabe. Michele Green is a plein air painter whose studio is the wide-open marshes of Somerset County. She says that she has always been an artist. It's just who she is. She sold her first painting at the age of 14. Her formal training was at the School of Visual Arts in New York, but she considers art a lifelong learning process. When Michele and I talked together, it was a beautiful fall day on a marsh near Rumley, Maryland, where the crickets were serenading us as we talked.
I think artists work until they're dead, and they learn until they're dead. It's a lot of maturity you have to work through, I think, to let go and let the art process happen, but you also need to have all of your skills honed at that point, too. Practice. Thousands of paintings I've done, I don't throw them in the bushes on the way home anymore.
Painting outdoors can have many challenges, particularly for an oil painter like Michele. She spends her days hiking in the marshes with her dogs. She travels light, carrying supplies and sometimes canvases as big as 4 feet long in a small floating sled, usually used by hunters. Plein air painting became Michele's passion when she was a young mother.
I like to say plein air because I'm not that fancy, as you could tell. When I had my son, and I was a single mother with him, and I had to take him to work every day, and I had started painting places where he could play, at lakes, beaches, fields. I just started working that way, and one thing led to another. That's where I need to be. And the whole plein air process really started because of him. And I went out and tried it. My first painting, it was like 95 degrees. I think I was out of my mind. Half the time I'm out of my mind out here dragging 4-foot paintings, but I was hooked. It was the first one. I loved it. I stood on a highway and painted this hill with these trees at the top, and that was it. And then driving my son around when he was little and taking him places, it just lent itself. It just lent itself to what I could do and make a living. I love doing it, again, because I like an ultimate challenge with myself. And because you have absolutely no control and there's so much going on around you besides physically what's going on, you have so much input. It's just constantly coming in. There's the sounds and smells, and I'm trying to get a small area that I'm looking at on a small canvas, and yet the area is just huge. So you have to teach yourself to really focus on what you're looking at. I take my sled out and drag everything out there in the easel, and I try to go with a very lightweight easel. Sometimes I work very large and take a heavier easel. I'll scope that out beforehand to see if I can make it that far with everything and get it back without getting it dirty and flying across the field, which happens a lot. And bugs get in your paintings. Again, it controls me. And some days it wins. It just wins. And it could be beautiful like it is now, and a storm comes and just takes everything away, or it just doesn't work out. Or I told you I always take my dogs, they'll kick up a skunk or whatever, and you got to get out of there pretty fast.
Michele describes her work as a mix between impressionism and abstraction. Her creative process is a reflection of both her emotions and her training. Michele loves the colors of the Delmarva landscape. She says that except for when the weather is really wet, cold, or windy, she can work outdoors for most of the year.
The work is actually done in my head first, and then I just physically have to paint. For me, it is about the light and the atmosphere. When you plein air paint, you really have about 2 hours of it looking consistent enough for you. So you get there a little bit on the early side of it, a couple hours before, and get a nice underpainting going. That really try to get it together in that middle section of time, and then maybe finish up a little bit afterward, or go home and go, oh, no, that's wrong, and fix that. I do like to hunt spots, just walking around, looking at places, driving around. I'll find something that's just interesting. The light looks cool, and I have to sort of jot notes or think about, well, that was a partially cloudy day, and like this painting I started here, it was completely cloudy, and the greens were just glowing. I love that when the colors are fluorescent.
Michele has many talents. She plays the banjo and is an accomplished bluegrass musician. And she recently wrote a humorous mystery novel set in the marsh country she loves so much. Find out more at michellegreen.net. Well, that's all for this edition of the Delmarva Almanac. We'd like to thank our community partners, the Friends of Delmarva Public Radio, the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore, and underwriters, eatdrinkbuyart.com, for their help in bringing this program to you, our audience. Our theme music was provided by Brightside Studio. This show has been a Moonshell production. Thanks for listening. Until we meet again, may the rhythms and tides of Delmarva bring you good fortune.